Weeks like this week is why Triple H does not want this known as the Paul Triple H Levesque era, because he gets all of the credit for the good, but he also gets all of the credit for the bad. And actually, there are a lot of people who don't want to give him credit for the good. And
what is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Discussions here on the Takedown on SI. I am Zack, Heydorn, your host. That's Rick Ucchino. He's your other host. Rick, man, it's been a week.
Is it Friday already? Is it Friday? Somehow it's Friday already.
Somehow it's Friday already. And do you think Triple H is sitting here today going, man, it's been a nice, smooth week in WWE, or is he saying to himself, hey, where's the liquor bottle at?
So, okay. You remember, like, when Paul Heyman got inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, and there was all this talk that he said about, we are now in the Paul Triple H Levesque era, and then Triple H was all like, no, it's a team effort. It's not just me. It's a team effort, this, that, and the other thing. Weeks like this week is why Triple H does not want this known as the Paul Triple H Levesque era, because he gets all of the credit for the good, but he also gets all of the credit for the bad. And actually, there are a lot of people who don't want to give him credit for the good. Anytime that I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, oh, the Bloodline storyline's only good because of Paul Heyman. So, like, Triple H doesn't even get the credit that I think he deserves on a lot of the booking decisions, but obviously a lot of the angst and heat and just annoyance with WWE is being thrown his direction this week because of how things started out on Sunday when R-Truth pretty much broke the internet, announcing that he was being released. That were his words. The reporting after that from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful and a few others is that his contract was not being renewed, which is something that we've seen similar to a few other people. Sonya Deville is one that comes to mind. Shotzi didn't have her contract renewed.
Yeah.
Ricochet last year, but he chose to leave. So there have been some people who have worked pretty much right up until when the company decided, hey, we're not going to keep you around anymore. And R-Truth was a very, very surprising one, and it was one that garnered a lot of reaction that I don't necessarily know if WWE was prepared for.
Here's the thing. Like, no, they weren't prepared for it. And I don't know, honestly, like, and I don't want to be, I'm not like, you guys know me. I'm not like necessarily a staunch, defend WWE on everything, but I don't know that they could have even predicted the backlash that R-Truth generated, because I think for so long, especially in the Vince McMahon days, R-Truth was like just this joke character. And I think obviously WWE underestimated the connection he had with the audience just because of the longevity he's had and because of the recent, kind of run too with John Cena, with the Awesome Truth coming back. I mean, there was a nostalgia piece to this in his recent past. But if I'm Triple H and I'm asked, like, hey, look at this balance sheet here and, we need to make some cuts. R-Truth, like, and again, I'm not being mean to the guy, but he would be on the list of that. I would circle his name because I'd be like, well, there's a lot of other people on this list with a higher upside. They're younger, they're not, solidified in one specific niche role. And I think I would make the same call as hard as it would be. I have sympathy for Triple H on this one.
Yeah, and I do too. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm, I would not have made the same decision. I don't know. I don't envy having to be put in that situation, but I do think it's important to realize that Triple H was put in that situation.
Of course.
The way that people reacted on social media was like Triple H was just sitting back there with his feet up on a desk laughing as he calls up R-Truth and says, hey, we're not renewing your contract because we want to save, all this money. And then he hangs up the phone, puts on some swimming trunks, and dives into some Scrooge McDuck level, vault full of gold coins. Like, there were people who thought that's what was happening, or just the way that they reacted, like it was his fault. There were so many people I saw this week tweeting out things like, oh, we owe Vince McMahon an apology, or we need to get Vince McMahon back, or this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, how soon we forget.
Yeah.
How soon we forget how bad things got under Vince McMahon over those last 4 years.
Well, and specifically related to R-Truth. I mean, Vince McMahon paraded R-Truth around as a child. Like he was like a child character. I thought it was always unbecoming. And I think actually in the Triple H era, R-Truth found a little more, he didn't find it, but he was allowed to be more of a mature version of the R-Truth character. Whereas under Vince, he was just this laughingstock guy. Like that was crazy to me hearing that.
I think he had his most significant run in a decade under Triple H. Won the tag team titles at WrestleMania, was able to hold those titles for a while. Got to wrestle John Cena on his retirement tour. Like he was in the middle of arguably his most substantial booking, because he's primarily been used as kind of like the cameo guy. Like he'll pop in and out of certain situations. He'll make people laugh. He'll do something funny. And then, that's it. Like I can't remember like the last like really substantive storyline that he had prior to the tag team run with The Miz and prior to the John Cena story arc. So after he came back from his knee injury, in which he almost lost his damn leg, he comes back from that. He wins the tag titles at WrestleMania. He gets to wrestle John Cena on his retirement tour. Was it a great match? Depends on who you ask. He only got about 4 minutes, but the fact is he got the spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing.
That's the key. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the thing that irritates people the most is like he just came off of that. He had a massively successful t-shirt for the company. There was obviously still value with R-Truth. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's gone, and people want to, look, they got to point their outrage somewhere, and social media is a great sounding board for that. What I was going more in for the Vince McMahon comments and people saying, oh, well, we owe this man an apology. The sex trafficking allegations aside, y'all remember when the pandemic rolled around and he just fired people left and right and was basically trimmed the roster down to like 40 main people on television and booked the same matches over and cut people like Rusev and cut people like Aleister Black and basically handed Tony Khan his entire roster? Y'all remember those days? That great booking? That's what we owe an apology to because R-Truth is gone? I'm sorry. And the other thing, like, I can't buy into that. And the other thing that is like irking me about this, it's like people just are ignoring something that they already know. Like, I feel like so many people who are WWE fans know how corporate America works.
Right. That's
not defending the system by any stretch of the imagination, because in my industry, radio, I have seen this. I've seen this playbook run by the 5 major companies that run and own all of the radio stations in this country, at least in the majority of the major media markets. I know how this playbook works. You buy it, you trim it down to the bare necessities, and you bring in as much money as you want. That's the playbook. That's corporate America. Every major company does this. Disney just laid off a bunch of people. Disney, they own ESPN. They own ABC. If anybody has money, it's Disney. They just laid off, I a few thousand employees. Yeah. WWE trimmed like 20 people off their roster in the last month, and people are calling for Triple H's head. And it's not even WWE. This is stuff that is coming from their now parent company. Right. And that's the other thing that I people just seem to want to ignore in this situation. It's like, look at this company. They're turning out these massive profits, and they're talking about major gates and revenue and merchandise sales, and they're constantly setting all these records, and yet they're underpaying their talent, and they're cutting all these guys. And yes, all of that is true. But just because WWE's making money doesn't mean Endeavor's making money.
Right.
They're counting on, and I heard Jimmy Van talking about this today on or earlier this week, I think, with On the Hump with Sean Rossap for Fightful. Like, Endeavor is in debt. I don't know what all the business dealings are. You can watch that podcast, and Jimmy will break it down far better than I can. But Endeavor is millions, if not billions of dollars in debt. So they need UFC and WWE to make a ton of money to help them get out of debt, use their successful entities to help the company get out of debt. So if Endeavor, which is in debt, says, "Hey, WWE, you're doing great. Can you trim up the operating budget just a little bit there for us?"
Or not even can you, but you will.
You will. You will. So you go to Triple H and you say, "Hey, you need to trim your roster down. You're bringing up so-and-so from, you brought in Roxanne and Julia and Stephanie, and Ricky Starks is coming up, and Jordan Grace is coming up. Yeah. Oh, you just signed Mariah May from AEW. That's great. Good for business. Oh, Rusev's back. Aleister Black is back. That's all great. We got to offset that cost somehow."
Yeah.
And
when you look at it that way, when you have that perspective on it, as you should, and look, nobody's advocating for anybody to lose their job here. No, it's like it's just the real world. Like, you have a roster of talent, and that talent, just like a sports team, is gonna fluctuate. You're gonna lose some of your prized veteran stars on an NFL team at some point in time. Aaron Rodgers just signed with the Steelers, for God's sakes. Like, it happens, and it happens not just in WWE. You heard the other Jonathan Coachman news about Triple H?
Yeah.
It's more of just a goofy what if. It's not. Yeah, news is like I'm getting.
He heard from somebody. Like, look, I'm not doubting.
Just tell the story. Tell the story.
I'm not doubting that Jonathan Coachman has sources or knows people in the industry, but like, I mean, I don't even know the full story of it, because like, basically he is predicting based off of people that he has spoken with that Triple H is going to be forced out of Endeavor within 18 months because of a feud with The Rock. He's been on this hype. He's been on this train for a while that Triple H and The Rock don't like each other, and they might not.
Yeah,
they might not. But okay, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it, because as long as WWE continues to be on the trajectory that they are on, where they are printing money, again, WWE, not necessarily Endeavor, but they're printing money. They can raise their ticket prices, and people are still selling out arenas, right? They can bring in record gate after record gate, merchandise sales, all that stuff. As long as the company continues to be as profitable as it is now, there's not going to be any issues. And eventually there are, because sooner or later, because everything's cyclical, there will be a bump in the road. There will be a bump in the road. There will be a lull in business. There will be a lull in interest. And I think, us as wrestling analysts, and I think wrestling fans can kind of feel there's a little bit of a shift in momentum going on right now, heading more towards AEW's way. And a lot of that is WWE's own doing with the competitive booking that they're doing, setting up 3 shows on a weekend in Atlanta, the same weekend as All In, right? In Texas. And, with the talent cuts, which again are not all on Triple H. It's Triple H's job to pick which ones that he wants to let go. So if he doesn't have plans for a Sonya Deville, if he doesn't have plans to utilize Carmella in some way, if he doesn't have plans to use R-Truth, or even if he does, but he would rather hang on to a guy like Karrion Kross and try to re-sign him. It's like, okay, bring back R-Truth. Somebody else has got to go. So now you're playing this game of, okay, well, we keep R-Truth. Who's somebody else that we have to let go? Because you still have to get the budget aligned. And maybe behind the scenes, they tried to renegotiate a contract or a Legends deal with R-Truth, or pay him less money than, what he has been getting, because he has been there for 17 years. We don't know all the details of what went on behind the scenes in the contract negotiations. All we know for a fact is R-Truth was let go. This was a directive from on high, and it's a 53-year-old, very, very talented, all-time great character performer who now finds himself on the free agent market, and people are upset about it. And I think it's just important to have these discussions. Name of the show, right? To have these discussions about, why this stuff is happening. And it's not all on Triple H. Now, he's going to get, like I said, all of the blame.
Yeah, well, and it's his responsibility.
He made the final call. But again, it was like, hey, here's your roster. You know what it is. You know what you need best on your roster to be able to keep your product moving forward and keep making us money. Who do you not need?
Yeah.
And sometimes really, really good, talented, deep rosters have to cut good players. It happens in every sport, as you said earlier.
100%, man. And
it sucks.
It sucks.
It doesn't mean we have to be happy about it.
Doesn't change yes, but there's context around it, and that's important. Like it's not just, hey, let's yell. There's context around it, and I gotta say too, like, I'm with you on the coach report thing. I'll believe it when I see it, because look, there's like two people on the planet that can do that job. Like, seriously, and maybe even only one when you wrap into it, talent relations and pro wrestling, and like, it's not like there's a line out the door of people who are qualified for that job. Brian Gwartz may or may not be, but he's not qualified in the same way that Triple H is, and that'd be a tough. That's a whole mess of knowledge that you're just kicking right out the door.
He's literally been training for this job.
Yes.
Since he married Stephanie, basically.
For decades, yeah.
For decades now, he's been training for this opportunity. And he's what? Not even 3 years in?
Right.
Not even 3 years in, and he's record gates, profit out the wazoo. Are there improvements that need to be made? Absolutely. And we're not going to let up on pushing for those improvements to be made. Are there people we'd like to see utilized better? Yes, I brought up Karrion Kross. I'd love to see him actually get any kind of push, or at least, hey, let's start with a wrestling match on television, right? Like, there are some things I would like to see done better. Of course there is, but this is subjective entertainment. So what's better for me isn't necessarily better for somebody else. And again, we're all human beings in this situation. We all feel bad for what happened to R-Truth and Carlito and Sarah Logan this week, and what happened to Sonya and everybody else who got cut earlier this year and late last year, Casey Catanzaro and all those folks, right? So it's like, we feel bad. That can be it. You could just feel bad that somebody lost their job, and hopefully they land on their feet. And I think a lot of them will land on it.
Man, if you're gonna be so reasonable, we're just gonna wrap up the show. Forget it.
I was burdened. I was cursed with this gift of common sense, which is not common anymore. I have uncommon sense, is what I have.
Oh, man. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining the show. Thanks for hitting play on this thing. If you can do us a favor and hit like the video, subscribe to the channel. We have our Money in the Bank preview up right now. You can check it out. Check out all the preview and predictions for the big PLE coming up this weekend. John Alba's got an interview with Trick Williams. Definitely check that one out. He's been on fire, and it's really cool. So make sure you check that out amongst all the other great stuff that we have up on the channel as well. We'll talk to you guys next week right here on Discussions in the Takedown SI. That's Rick. I'm Zach. See you later.
Take care, everybody.